Honestly, if you give me an anime series with cute anime girls designed by Kontaku, I am already on board. But thankfully, A Salad Bowl of Eccentrics is a series that offers a lot more than your typical shows done by his artwork. This isn't your one room with a first-person perspective of a girl that's obsessed with her brother, or Sasaki and Peeps that, unfortunately for me, didn't really pan out very well. It's kind of tackling the isekai genre in a way that I honestly feel like more writers should. Instead of having a boring male protagonist going to another world where he finds a harem of waifus, instead we're taking a bunch of cute girls with magical powers and bringing them to our world. And all the zany shenanigans that can come from that, especially trying to make sure that they stop using their fantasy powers because somebody's gonna find out. But I've watched the first 3 episodes of Salad Bowl of Eccentric, and I have a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. Our series opens up in a fantasy world where we have a princess is fleeing from her kingdom, and she goes in this one cave that has a portal to another world, and sure enough, it's there. And she jumps into it before she falls from the sky right on top of Sosuke, who is in our modern times Japan. Now, Sosuke is a detective, and after she proves that she is from a fantasy world because she uses her powers, he takes her back to his place where he lets her stay the night, but then sort of wiggles her way into his life in the idea that if she leaves him, she has to clear his memories, which could make him a vegetable. So he agrees to have her kind of hang out at the same time he's doing his work as a detective. It's mostly him just doing like odd jobs, like a lot of disputes for marriages and stuff like that, tailing people to see if there's any sort of infidelity. At the same time, Sarah is getting really accustomed to the world, and especially manga, including Detective Conan. So it kind of turns one of those things where Sosuke, who seems like he's given up doing big jobs and being a hero of justice, sort of being re-sparked into it because of Sarah's desire to do what Detective Conan does. At the same time, there's another side of this story, which is Livia. And Livia is the knight of Sarah who followed her through the portal. But she has no idea where Sarah is in our world. So she's living homeless and trying to make ends meet while trying to figure out where Sarah's at. Eventually, she will find out where Sarah is, but in order not to bring dishonor upon her, Livia is trying to support herself. So she's trying to find a job, but mostly just living homeless. Eventually, Olivia gets roped into a cult where she ends up using her powers to heal somebody, at which point the cult believes that she is the savior for them, so they're trying to find her. And that's pretty much the nutshell of this story so far. So my thoughts on A Salad Bowl of Eccentric. So far, I'm enjoying this show. I don't think this show is really doing anything incredible, but at the same time, it's doing enough that it's making it entertaining for me. I think a lot of my enjoyment really comes around the relationship between Sosuke and Sarah. Opening up the series, again, having Sarah drop right on top of him. And sort of what happens here is you have Sosuke, who is this detective that has sort of given up on being sort of a hero, a justice hero, having to kind of keep this fantasy girl in check. Like the earlier segment, the first introduction, she literally says, okay, I can show you something else. And she blows up something in this playground, and he's like, oh crap, the police are gonna come. And she's like, that's okay, no matter how many of them come, I can take them all out. And he's like, no, if you wanna live here, you gotta keep this fantasy stuff in check. And that sort of kind of plays it out there. She wants to use her powers, but he's like, you can't really do that because otherwise you're going to get attention, too much attention. I will say that I'm kind of surprised that it doesn't rely too heavily on the idea of the fish out of water. Yes, Sarah wants to use her abilities and the abilities need to be kept in check, but it doesn't play too heavily on the idea of her constantly learning that things aren't right in this world. Like, it's not like a typical fish out of water where it's constantly, what is that? Oh, that's a cell phone. Let me show you how a cell phone works. Oh, what's that? That's a TV. It literally almost never relies on that. I think most of that stuff is with Livia, and it's very, very surface level. Instead, it's just really Sosuke sort of being helped at by Sarah and sort of having his life reinvigorated. There's a lot of emphasis here and there that Sosuke has sort of accepted where he's at. He's no longer really kind of trying to branch out from it. You get a little indication that once he was working for this company and he left that company, seemingly that probably something happened. Maybe there was something that he discovered that was corrupt and they didn't want to go along with it. They didn't want to bring it out there. And so he broke away from them. And he kind of just got settled with just doing a lot of mostly tailing people for infidelity and stuff like that. And he sort of just kind of accepted the status quo. Now 29, he's single, he's just doing these jobs, telling people. And now Sarah comes along and she gets like super into Detective Conan and she's trying to reinvigorate him to be that hero of justice. And that's showing as he's now putting himself out there. Like this one point where he's tailing somebody, finds out that the guy's being blackmailed. Normally he would walk away, but he decided, no, I'm going to go help that person. I'm going to be the hero in the situation. And then Sarah kind of backs him up. So it's really cute in that regard. I really like their chemistry and what they sort of bring to each other. Yeah, Sarah herself is a total dork. A lot of my enjoyment is, yes, partly because Olivia is hot and she's getting into the most of the shenanigans. Sarah's over here and she's just this cute little bundle of fun that's just trying to enjoy life more than what Sosuke is. And so, yes, getting into the idea of being a hero of justice and wanting to use her superpowers on things, trying to hide the fact that she's using magic by calling it some sort of Chinese technique or something like that. Just wanting him to make more money so that she can get more meat, so that she can enjoy meals. All that kind of stuff is all mixed in there. And again, thankfully not kind of digging too much into fish out of water, but yes, she's still kind of discovering things in this world and how the world works, like cults and stuff like that. Each one of the little scenes with Sosuke and Sarah just kind of going out and doing things is a lot of fun. There is like this sense early on that Sosuke doesn't want to get her too involved with what he's researching because she can see crimes and things that she shouldn't. But obviously she's a princess and she doesn't seem to mind so much seeing certain things until it gets too far. And so you'll have a situation where he's tailing somebody and staking out, and then suddenly she decides to fly over the wall to see what is happening in this house because the landscaper's been there too long. And then she ends up catching an eyeful, an eyeful of the landscaper. How does she put it? Something to the effect of sticking his super sword into her beast or something like that. Something like that. His ice blade into her bestial something. I don't know. It was her way of explaining it was odd, but yeah, it was pretty much the lady was getting something. And so it just completely flusters her and just completely corrupts her heart. Those kind of things are a lot of fun. The two of them, like I said, I've really enjoyed. And I do like their camaraderie, and it does seem like that's something that they kind of want to emphasize going forward. I mean, even when it gets into the topic of, hey, Sosuke, are you actually looking for a wife? Why are you single? Because it kind of indicates this one lady that gave him a job, which is this lawyer that's 34 years old that looks like a lolly, which Kotaku artwork. She's obviously 34 years old. She was showing interest in Sosuke, so Sarah's like, so are you going to get in a relationship? And he said, no, I've pretty much given up on that. He's seen too many things. And yes, that kind of comes with the territory of him tailing a lot of people and seeing a lot of infidelity. So it kind of indicates that they're going to be partners for the long run. And again, of course, on the opposite end of this whole thing is Livia. And I really do feel like they spend a lot more time on Livia than even Sosuke and Sarah, which is kind of surprising. But Livia is sort of the counter to this whole situation where Sarah has a place to stay. She has a job, basically, under Sosuke. Livia is the perspective of somebody that doesn't have a place to stay. She's living her life just kind of making ends meet, being homeless. And thankfully, she has the help of this other homeless man, Suzuki, who kind of shows her the ropes, shows her how she can make money by collecting cans, the place where all the homeless go in order to get food. And yes, she ends up getting roped into a lot of different, very shady jobs because she's beautiful and she's homeless. So yeah, somebody comes by to kind of rope her into a hostess club, and that hostess club ends up being like very questionable, which was a lot of fun because it's like she goes in there, they get her an outfit. The outfits that she chooses is a very revealing knight's outfit, and then she goes to sit down next to this guy, and the guy immediately just stuffs a big old wad of cash in between her boobs. And immediately she's offended by this. Like, how dare you? Don't get grabby. But then she realizes how much money it is, and it's one of those kind of... It's not really trying to dive too much into it, but it's obviously pointing out, like, okay, I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable with it, but at the same time, that's a lot of money, and I kind of need that money. So it gets in that little questionable area there with a little bit of a punchline, the idea that this place is eventually overrun by cops because it's doing questionable stuff. Then yes, later on having her get roped into this whole cult, and at some point just having to heal somebody because it's being revealed that the lady that's heading the cult doesn't have powers, and so she has to heal them, and now it seems like the whole cult wants to chase her down because she's the savior. And she doesn't want to have anything to do with it because she needs to, help her princess. It's a lot of fun. I really do feel like the back and forth between Sarah and Livia with the inclusion of Sosuke really does remind me a lot of Hinamatsuri. For those that have not watched Hinamatsuri or read it, it is a really funny series. And the concept with that one is this time-traveling, psychic-powered person that shows up with this Yakuza guy, and she's making his life a living hell because she has these powers and whatnot. And then on the opposite end, you have another one that was time-traveling that's homeless. And so you get the perspective of somebody living with this guy and somebody that's living homeless. So it's very much so like that. But yes, not to the levels of the comedy of Hinamatsuri. Hinamatsuri is just nonstop hilarity with, yes, some really emotional points, surprisingly. This one's very kind of more chill. It's much more like a buddy cop thing, the duo doing all these different detective works and the shenanigans that can come from it. It's a lot more lighthearted and a lot more fun. So I would probably just leave it at that. They're similar, but no way the same caliber. Visually, so far this series is okay. I will not chime this is the greatest looking thing ever, which is, yes, unfortunate because I love Kontaku's artwork, so I want to see it as beautiful as possible. Yes, they keep the cute girls on models, so they're doing well enough with that. But this isn't like some crazy animation thing. This is like a very middle of the road animation series visually and animation wise that's just doing enough to, you know, it's doing enough that it's not looking bad. And yes, whenever Olivia is in risque situations, she looks really fantastic. Olivia constantly looks really good. But yeah, all around, I'm enjoying the show. It's, again, I'm not going to oversell it to anybody. It's really going to be like that show that I just watch it because I enjoy it and I enjoy the characters and they're really cute. And other than that, it's just maybe if later on they do something really compelling, I might jump in here and let you guys know. But for now, it's doing enough. It's doing enough that it's enjoyable. And I want to see more of Sarah's shenanigans, like trying to turn invisible even though she can't see. So she decides to leave her head uninvisible so that it's just a floating head. Or yes, technically catching a woman cheating on her husband. And getting an eyeful. But anyhow, if any of that sounds interesting, definitely check it out. But that's my thoughts on A Salad Bowl of Eccentrics so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know thought of this series you're going to be checking it out. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I have news, reviews, first impressions, top list if it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have Patreon link, tip link, so thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate what it does. Y'all take care.